All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the final chapter of a company's life, corporate liquidation. It's this very formal, very legal process for taking a business apart piece by piece. We're going to use the official framework from Kosovo as our guide to walk through every single step, right from that first big decision all the way to the final signature that makes a company, well, disappear.
So what really happens when a business closes its doors for good? I mean, it's not as simple as just flicking off the lights and walking away, right? Nope. There's a very formal, very structured process that's designed to untangle all of its financial and legal ties.
To really get a handle on this, think of it like this. Liquidating a company is a lot like carefully dismantling an old building. You don't just swing a wrecking ball at it. Instead, an expert team comes in, they take inventory of everything, they sell off the valuable stuff, the copper wiring, the steel beams, and they use that cash to pay off any construction loans or supplier debts. And then, only then, do they clear the site, making it ready for something totally new.
And that analogy actually brings us right to the official definition. Legally speaking, liquidation is the process of selling off all of a company's assets, using that money to pay back its creditors, and then, and this is the key part, formally terminating the company's existence. It literally gets wiped from the official register.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with flipping the switch. That's the decision that kicks this whole thing off. Then we'll meet the liquidation authority, the expert team in charge of the whole dismantling. We'll see how you, if you're a creditor, make your claim. Then the big one, the priority payout, where we see who gets paid first. And finally, we'll see how it all ends in case closed.
First up, flipping the switch. See, a company doesn't just sort of drift into liquidation. The entire massive process is set in motion by one single formal decision.
And that decision comes from a very specific place. In Kosovo, the whole process is officially triggered by a liquidation decision that's handed down by the Board of Directors of the Privatization Agency of Kosovo, or PAC. They're the ones who flip the switch.
And let me tell you, as soon as that decision is made, a very, very strict clock starts ticking. Within just 10 business days, a public liquidation notice has to be published. This tells the world what's happening, and more importantly, it starts a 45-day countdown. And that is the absolute, final, no extensions deadline for anyone owed money by the company to get their claim in. If you miss it, you are out of luck.
The impact of this decision is immediate and, frankly, pretty drastic. At midnight on the day the decision is made, the company's management team, they lose all their power. Every single employee contract is canceled, and any lawsuits or legal actions against the company are frozen, just suspended right in their tracks. The company as it was, well, it just stops.
Okay, Section 2. Enter the liquidation authority. So with the old management team gone, a new team has to take charge of the dismantling process.
And this new team, they have some serious power. The liquidation authority takes control of absolutely everything. All the assets, the bank accounts, all legal matters. Their job is to figure out exactly what the company owns and what it owes, sell off all the assets, and, this is a big one, they scrutinize every single claim that comes in to decide if it's legit.
Now, you can't just appoint anybody to this role. The law is very strict to make sure everything's impartial. The person has to be a qualified professional, like a licensed accountant or a lawyer, and they absolutely cannot have a recent criminal record, be owed money by the company themselves, or have been a part of the old management team. It's all about avoiding any conflict of interest.
Okay, next up, let's look at making your claim. This is where we shift our focus to the people and businesses who are actually affected by all this, the creditors. This is how they stake their place in line to hopefully get paid.
For creditors, the process is pretty straightforward, but it is totally unforgiving. Step 1, you have to get the official proof of claim form. Step 2, you fill it out completely with all the details of what you're owed and any proof you have, like contracts or invoices. And step 3, you absolutely, positively must submit it before that 45-day deadline we talked about. There's no wiggle room.
So this proof of claim document is everything. It's not just a casual email or a letter. It is the formal, legally required paperwork. Think of it as your official ticket into the process. If you don't have one, you can't even be considered for payment.
And here's the thing. Just submitting that ticket isn't the end of the story. The liquidation authority has to review every single one. Only if they approve it do you become what's called a registered creditor, and that is a huge deal, because only registered creditors have any chance of getting paid.
Now, even within that group, there's a special VIP category called a secured creditor. This is someone whose claim is directly tied to a specific asset, what's called collateral. A perfect example is a bank that holds a mortgage on the company's headquarters. And as you're about to see, that special status gives them a massive advantage when it's time to get paid.
And that brings us to the financial heart of this whole thing, the priority payout. Once all the assets are sold and the money's in the bank, who gets paid first? It's not a free-for-all. It's a very, very strict pecking order.
You can visualize this as a payment waterfall. First off, the costs of the liquidation itself get paid. Then those secured creditors we just mentioned get paid from the money made selling their specific collateral. After that, former employees get a shot at claiming unpaid wages, and only then do we get to the unsecured creditors, the regular suppliers and other businesses. And who's dead last in line? The company's original owners and shareholders.
And here is the most important rule of that waterfall. Money only ever flows down. A lower priority group gets paid absolutely nothing until every single person in the group above them has been paid in full. And in a lot of these cases, the money runs out long before it ever reaches the bottom, especially those unsecured creditors and the shareholders.
All right, we're in the home stretch now. Section 5, case closed. After all the money has been distributed, the process itself has to be formally wrapped up.
So, the final administrative step is something called the final report. The liquidation authority basically puts together a complete record of everything. What was sold, how much money came in, who got paid, and they submit it to the special chamber of the Supreme Court of Kosovo to get the final sign-off.
And once the court approves that report, the final sentence is passed. The language in the law is incredibly stark and clear. It says, "The enterprise shall be terminated. Its legal existence is over. Done. Forever."
This direct quote from the law just hammers home how final this really is. Once the case is closed, any debts or claims that couldn't be paid are extinguished by operation of law. That means they're legally vaporized. You can't try to collect them anymore. The slate is wiped clean because, well, the company just doesn't exist.
So you see, the process is designed to be really orderly and give everyone a clean ending. But it does leave us with this one big lingering question. The framework is clear, sure, but how do you apply it fairly in the real world? Especially in a place like Kosovo, where some of these claims could be decades old, and the paper records are often incomplete or just plain missing. It's a challenge that turns a neat legal process into a really complex and very human puzzle.